Donald Trump is forcing this conversation on immigration. Do you support what he said?
I think what he said was wrong. I think it was inappropriate. I don't think it has any place in the campaign. And I find it ironic, right, that Ted Cruz is giving lectures on Republican violence.
You're listening to the Laura Ingraham Show, 855-40-LAURA. Chris Christie continued in that soundbite saying, look, Ted Cruz was connected to a group of Senate conservatives fund that ran ads against Lamar Alexander. Well, Republican on Republican violence. Well, obviously I supported challenges to a number of Republican incumbents, Lamar Alexander being one of them. And we did that because we don't represent the party. We try to represent, and I just in my little way through the media, the people. And that's what Ted Cruz was doing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So what? Ronald Reagan sought to take back the mantle from the country club Republicans and bring it back to the people, and he won 2 landslides. Joining us now, the aforementioned Ted Cruz, here on the Laura Ingraham Show, candidate for the presidency, and we're delighted he's with us. Senator Cruz, it is great to talk to you. How are you?
I'm doing terrific. How are you doing, Laura? It's always great to join you.
I'm doing fine. So what of the Christie comment about you?
Well, look, Chris Christie is welcome to say whatever he likes. I am proud to defend Donald Trump. I like Donald Trump. I respect Donald Trump. And he is highlighting an issue that Washington politicians don't want to talk about, which is illegal immigration. And you know this well because you focus on it consistently. And for a long time I've talked about what I call the Washington cartel, which is career politicians in both parties, Democrats and Republicans, who get in bed with the lobbyists, who get in bed with a special interest. And the sad reality is the Washington cartel supports amnesty. The Washington cartel doesn't want to stop illegal immigration, so they're mad at Donald Trump for focusing on this critical issue. And I'm not going to play that game. The mainstream media loves to get a whole bunch of Republicans. We've seen one after another of the presidential candidates stand up and smack Donald Trump. I think it's wrong. I'm not going to do it. And for that matter, I'm not going to smack Chris Christie either. If he wants to take shots at me, he can knock himself out. I have repeatedly defended Chris Christie for what I think are unfair and ridiculous charges the media has blown up against him. And I don't think your listeners or the American people are interested in hearing a bunch of politicians bicker in Washington. What they're interested in is leaders who will address the real challenges facing this country, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
On the issue of immigration, on the substance, I think you hit the nail on the head that the people are fed up with Washington saying one thing and then doing another. And these horrific crimes that have been committed by illegal immigrants, not all illegal immigrants, but a sizable percentage, as CBS News has even now reported, the crimes against sexual crimes against minors, the drug trafficking, the MS-13 arrests. Just this year in Texas, Arizona, California, disturbing percentage of California inmates are illegal aliens, and most happen to be from Mexico or Central America. These are issues that are important to people, and I think that people focusing on Trump or the way he worded something, that's not the point. The point is people want this stopped. They want it stopped. It's not fair to us, and it's not right by our Constitution, Senator Cruz.
You are exactly right. As you know, when the Washington cartel was pushing the Gang of Eight amnesty bill, I helped lead the fight to stop the Gang of Eight because it was wrong. Amnesty is wrong, and we have got to stop illegal immigration. Listen, I represent the state of Texas. We've got roughly 1,200 miles of border with Mexico. I've spent a lot of time down on the border visiting with law enforcement, visiting with Border Patrol agents. There are serious security threats, whether it is from terrorists coming over or criminals coming over. People come to this country for all sorts of different reasons. I am the son of an immigrant who came from Cuba legally in 1957 on a student visa. He became a citizen. He was fleeing oppression, and there are millions of Americans who came here seeking freedom. That's why we should use legal immigration, because you can check and make sure the people coming are not murderers or not rapists or not criminals. When you have an unsecured border, we don't know who's coming across. And I'll tell you, anyone who thinks they're being humane or compassionate, supporting the status quo of unchecked illegal immigration, I would invite them, come down to the border and take a look at the photographs of the bodies of women and children brutalized and left to die in the desert by coyotes, by transnational, vicious criminal cartels that are smuggling these people in. That is not humane. It is not compassionate. And Donald Trump, I salute him for shining a light on the need to address this problem and to solve it. It's something I have been fighting to do for years, and most of the Washington cartel does not want to address it.
And there was a piece in Mediaite, and I was in Greece tanking that economy, Ted. I was in Greece over the last 8 days. Yeah, I did a good job, right? I called the referendum, Senator, and then on Sunday I was still there. I was down in the square in Athens, called the referendum, and look what the hell, all hell broke loose. Okay, so that's what I've been doing. But then you go on I was Meet the Press, I guess, with Chuck Todd, and he kept pointing. This is what they always do. They say, well, what are you going to do with the 11 million people who are here? But it's probably more like 20 million, by the way. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do with the 11 million people? And they said, well, refuses to answer the question. And your point to him was, well, let's secure the border, then we can have a conversation. Again, I think that's the right way of looking at it. And I don't mean secure the border because DHS says, oh, the border's secure, because we know, what DHS will do. They'll just fudge it or be beholden to any political interest that pushes them. But do you agree that the border should be secure over a number of years? Let's say 5 to 7 years, and then we can have a conversation in a practical way about what to do with the illegal aliens who still remain.
I think that's absolutely right, and it's important for your listeners to understand. This is a problem we know how to solve. When you go and visit, as I have, with law enforcement on the border, with Border Patrol agents, they say the single most effective tool is boots on the ground. So in the Senate, I introduced legislation to triple our Border Patrol, to increase fourfold the fixed-wing and rotary-wing aircraft so that we have the tools to apprehend people crossing, to put in place a strong biometric exit-entry visa system, because, as you know, 40% of illegal immigration is not people right. It's visas that they just stay. Putting in place a strong E-Verify system. We know how to do this. What's lacking is not the tools. What's lacking is the political will. And the American people, quite reasonably, we've fallen for this before. In the 1980s, the last time Congress did immigration reform, there were 3 million people here illegally, and Congress said, we're going to grant amnesty to those 3 million in exchange for securing the borders. Well, we know what happened. The amnesty happened. The border never got secured. In the Gang of Eight, they're trying to offer us the same deal. Most of the Republican field have at one time or another supported amnesty, supported that same deal of amnesty today for a promise to secure the borders in the future. The American people, quite rationally, are saying, baloney, we don't believe you.
Right. Because
Washington has lied to us too many times. And so my view, and I think what the American people are saying, is solve this problem first, secure the borders, then we can talk about what to do next.
Yeah, what about your view on legal immigration? Because I think this is where you and I part ways. You believe that we should have easier legal immigration, and at somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, this might be wrong, but somewhere I read that it was either you or Rubio who thinks we should, even over another 10 years, triple the number of people who are coming legally to the United States. Could you just clarify that in case I'm getting that wrong?
It's not me. I don't know where you read that, but
okay.
that is not something I've advocated. Look, my view, I think there's a lot of common ground in this country that, number one, we should secure the border and stop illegal immigration, and then, number two, we should improve and streamline legal immigration.
But most people think, Senator, that we have enough legal immigration at 1.7 million legal immigrants a year, with all of this joblessness still in the United States, with wages not going up, with our schools being overcrowded, with our healthcare system continue to be strained, that we can't really take that much more in the way of legal immigration. And every poll says either keep it the same or reduce it. That's from Gallup to Kellyanne Fitzpatrick's poll. All of them are consistent across party lines.
Well, I mean, let me give an example. Let's focus on H-1B visas, which are temporary high-skilled visas. Right now, the status quo is Every year, U.S. colleges and universities educate tens of thousands of foreign students who are getting masters and PhDs in engineering and math and computer science. And we're sending them back to their countries. And as a result, they're going back to their countries. They're starting businesses there. They're creating jobs there, and their companies are competing with us and taking jobs away from us. I don't think that makes any sense. So I've introduced legislation to increase the number of H-1B visas. If there are people who are educated and talented and creating jobs, the data shows for every H-1B visa holder who comes in, he or she creates 1.7 jobs for Americans here. I want job creations. I want innovators. I want new opportunities for America.
But
and I think we
that,
can.
Though, Senator. The H-1B thing is one of the most abused vehicles that corporations are using today. Everyone's an H-1B visa. We got call centers are H-1B. The Disney just laid off a bunch of Americans. I assume you don't support that. 150 Americans laid off by Disney to do so they're bringing in the foreign replacements and they're training their foreign replacements to do the monitoring of the security system. I mean, that's an H-1B visa person we need. I don't get that.
I think we should have common sense reform of legal immigration. So we bring in and provide an avenue.
Not that one. You don't support the way they did that, do you?
I don't know the facts of the Disney example, so I mean I can't comment on what specifically they may have done or not done.
American workers had to train their foreign replacements at Disney. I believe, Drew, 150? Yes, 150.
Listen, I think our top priority should be jobs and economic growth. And if we're going to have jobs and economic growth, the way to do so primarily is through tax reform and regulatory reform, through fighting the beast that is the Washington cartel. And that is what I've been leading the fight to do. You know, when it comes to amnesty, it's worth pointing out, if you look at the 2016 Republican field, who in the field has actually demonstrated they'll stand up and oppose amnesty?
Well, I think you're great on that. I mean, look, I'm at the age now, Senator, where I'll just say what I think. I mean, not that I always didn't, but I just think I think we just have a problem in this country where people can't get ahead. They can't make enough money. A lot of the rich people are doing real well, and I know a lot of the rich people are big donors to campaigns. I'm not saying it's about you, but they say, look, get these H-1B visas going, guys. Come on, let's get it going. I need more. We got labor costs are too high for a company. Got to bring it down. Sometimes that happens, and I know it because I've heard it from actual people in companies who tell me this is what happened when they had to train people. But look, I think it's a problem. It's one issue. It's not all the issues. We think you're doing a phenomenal job out there. But on that issue, maybe we part ways. I know on this issue. Go ahead. No, I just have one more question.
Listen, we may have some disagreements on the issue of legal immigration. And when you talk about the big donors, you're right that a lot of the Washington cartel, it's special interest and lobbyists that candidates are listening to them. As you know, just about every one of those lobbyists are passionately opposed to me. There was recently a gathering of big donors that Mitt Romney organized in Utah, where he invited a number of Republicans. Essentially, all of the folks who had supported amnesty came together for this gathering of Republican donors in Utah. Do you know who one of the opening speakers was at that gathering? David Axelrod.
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Hey,
and Axelrod
said... Mitt Romney and Utah. I mean, Axelrod, that tells you everything you need. I'm glad you weren't invited. I'm glad.
Well, no, I most certainly wasn't invited. People they invited Jeb Bush, they invited Chris Christie, they invited Scott Walker and Marco Rubio and Lindsey Graham and John Kasich. And Axelrod's comment towards the opening, he said, the next president who is elected will be someone who will manage Washington.
Yeah, of course.
Not change Washington.
No, of course. Foster Freeze apparently and others are trying to eject Trump from the debates. Your reaction to that before we let you go?
Oh, look, I think absolutely Donald should be part of the debates. I think Donald Trump is terrific, and I'm not going to engage in this Washington game of slamming him for daring to speak the truth about the failures of the Washington cartel. I mean, and it's part of the reason we've seen 125,000 people go into our website, tedcruz.org, contributing to our campaign because they're fed up with politicians who don't tell them the truth.
And you're standing alone in the field, standing up for Trump, and I think it's really smart. I think it's a really smart move on your part. We really appreciate your joining us. Senator Ted Cruz, always welcome on the Laura Ingraham Show.